If I was going in for a job interview tomorrow, I wouldn't be focused on trying to present myself as the best candidate. Okay. What I would be trying to sell myself as is the candidate that is worth fighting for the most. Okay. Now, as a recruiter, I've worked in the permanent space and I've worked in the temporary space as well. Okay. I enjoy both for their own reasons. But one thing that I would say is a pro and a con about the permanent world is it's a lot more subjective. Okay. So you may come off an interview with somebody, someone else in your team may be watching back that interview or see or see that person's background as well, and they may not think that they're great, or they may think that they are great, and you may be believing the opposite. Okay, so it typically comes when you have that interview with that candidate. You walk out of there thinking that they're really solid. You list why they're good. The boss or somebody else that you're working with disagrees, or even one step beyond that, you present that candidate to the client, and the client doesn't like them. Okay, for X, Y, and Z. All right. Now, what I mean by being worth fighting for, it means that, when you're going into these interviews, when you're going into these interviews, you need to give these recruiters enough of a reason to believe in you that when they then put you forward to the candidate or to the client, I should say, that they have enough evidence to support their claims as to why you are the right fit. Okay. So that's why the real mindset shift that you need to start adapting as a job seeker is to stop talking in responsibilities and start talking in outcomes. Okay. The biggest problem that job seekers have, and it's literally the exact same with their resume presentations, is you talk in duties and responsibilities. You don't talk in outcomes. Okay. So for example, all right, one of the biggest things that people will be like, in the sense of like, say for example, all right, I present a candidate to a client. I say, this is John. He is fantastic. Okay. Go through his CV. He can do A, B, and C. All right. Now let's say that the client gets back to me and says, we don't like John. He's not experienced enough in this thing. Why do you think he's good? Okay. Imagine I then said to him, oh, well, he's a hard worker. He's a great speaker. He's really polite. He's really respectful. Like, I just start listing features. I'm like, he's done this, he's done that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I just start listing features like, something like he's a great communicator. That's something I would see on like 99% of CVs is people saying that they're a great communicator, they're a team player, they're all these types of things. All right. All of that is great. But how do you prove that? You know what I mean? How can I support that claim that this person is a hard worker? How can I support this claim that this person works with people really well? How can I support these claims? So what you need to start doing is when you're going into job interviews, you need to stop talking in the mindset of, oh yeah, at this job, I dealt with the rostering. I dealt with this. I talked to that person, and you start listing things that's expected of you anyways with the job. You need to start talking in outcomes. So something like, I led a team of 10 people, or I dealt with 20 to 25 customer problems every single day, and that led to a greater customer satisfaction, and it led to a smoother efficiency in our own process of our work. So start talking in, outcomes. So you can still list the responsibilities in your CV and you can still talk about your responsibilities, but you need to be thinking about what these responsibilities led to. Okay. And it's when you start listing that second part about what these things led to and what these things resulted in, that then the recruiter starts to get a better idea as to who they're working with. Okay. Are they working with somebody who just does the job, or are they working with somebody who does really good with the job and helps solve problems? Okay. Because that's why someone's going to hire you. Okay. They don't care about what you've done in the past. They want to make sure that what you're doing now is a direct solution to their problem. Okay. So then that goes back to my initial point. All right. If I say to somebody, he is great at dealing with customers versus he has dealt with 20 to 25 customer problems every single hour for the last 3 months, and it's actually led to a greater customer satisfaction in his company. You see how that second part, like, I didn't even have to say that he's actually great with customers. I didn't have to list that, he's great at working with people, or he's a great communicator, or he's great at dealing with, customer problems or things along these lines. I didn't even have to say it. By just pointing out the result, by just pointing out the solution, by just pointing out the outcome, you already then know that. You know what I mean? It's like saying he's a great communicator, all right? Example A, oh, John is a great communicator, he's a really good speaker, versus John has dealt with 25 to 30 people per hour of angry customers. He also then liaises with the higher ups to then organize new plans, which then lead to greater things in the company like X, Y, and Z. all right? Or he's led meetings talking about A, B, and C. You know what I mean? Or things like along these lines. You start to then get that idea like, oh, okay, so he deals in high pressure situations. He speaks with people with senior figures. He presents ideas to senior figures, which then leads to greater outcomes for the company. All these types of things. He must be a great communicator. You know what I mean? So you need to stop listing the positives that you bring and just start demonstrating it. You know what I mean? Just start showing it as a candidate. And once you start doing that, I promise you, that's how you start to stand out as a candidate. And that's how you start to become a more attractive candidate to employees and to employers and to bosses and to recruiters and everyone else. And that's how you become somebody worth fighting for. Okay. So at the end of the day, when you're presented to the business and they start asking questions about you, that recruiter not only has enough to say about you, he's got enough evidence to back it as well. He doesn't have to say Jonathan has a great attention to detail. He can say Jonathan has a track record of fixing, let's say, 5 errors every hour with his work and making sure that, these things don't get repeated again. You know what I mean? So they can see that already. You know what I mean? They don't need to say, oh, Jonathan's a great team player. It's Jonathan leads a team of 10 people every single day where they all present different ideas and they come together with a common goal and a common outcome. And this common outcome drives greater results in this field, which leads to a greater percentage in X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Now, again, I'm not expecting you to have all the numbers and all the figures. Absolutely not. But something that you need to consciously think about moving forward is everything that you do, you need to start dealing with results. Okay? You need to start having data. You need to start having numbers. Okay? You don't even have to have numbers for every single thing. Like if you've worked at admin position, even there, instead of saying, I handle high pressure situations well, show me, how many people do you deal with every single day? How many of those are angry customers? How many of those then turn into happy customers? How many of those then come back and have a better perception of your company? That shows me more of you being good in high pressure situations compared to the guy who just has that dot point and says, I'm good in high pressure situations. You know what I mean? So by showing what you've done and by showing the solutions to the problems and by showing what you've done and what that's led to, that's how you then become somebody worth fighting for. And you need to be able to get that across in your resume and even more in depth in interviews. Okay? If you guys want help with this and you guys are curious on how to then implement this into your own individual lives, I've got some links below if you're free to learn. If you're keen to learn more from me, feel free to click those links below. And yeah, I hope you guys got some value from this. All right, this is the biggest thing that I would say you guys need to make sure that you're doing moving forward with your job search is showing that you are a candidate worth fighting for. So again, when these recruiters get pressured and they have to ask and they have to talk more about yourself, they can actually sell you with evidence, and that's how you then stand out as a candidate. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.